Can you tell me which political party proposed a budget that would cut funding for wildfire resilience?
Ma'am, it was the Republican side.
It was not the Biden administration. Their budget has these funds in it. So when we look at these pictures, like most Americans, what I feel is I feel love for our national parks and recreation lands, and I feel a desire to protect them. But apparently not House Republicans. They look at these pictures and they don't seemingly feel anything at all. They just see an opportunity to attack our national parks. People love our national parks. Republicans, kids, adults. Some of our greatest national treasures are parks, not only for the natural beauty they provide, but also for the history that they preserve. Director Sams, do you know of anyone who hates the national parks? Have you encountered people like that in your service?
I have not, Madam Congresswoman, not at all.
I have not either. But sadly for all of us, our national parks have been increasingly harmed by wildfire. California has seen devastating wildfires in the last decade in our national parks. Forests have been destroyed. Wildlife has been vanquished, relocated, and historic structures have burned. And I want to show people what this looks like. These are tragic images. We should all be able to agree that these are tragic images. And we all know now, I want to be clear about this, we all understand that fires are to a certain extent an essential part of forest management. They're a natural part of forest management. But we want our parks to be resilient. Mr. Sams, can you tell me just yes or no? Does the National Park Service have a fire resilience plan to address situations like this?
Yes, we do.
You do. Of course you do. Of course you do, because everyone loves the national parks and nobody wants to see these kinds of harms. Mr. Sams, what's the one big thing that Congress can do to help aid wildfire resilience? When we see these images, when our constituents see these images, what do they need their representatives to do?
Thank you for the question, Congresswoman. Additional resources. The
Money. Let me just stop you right there, because I'm going to ask you what you're going to do with the money in just a minute, but I want to be really clear. Money. They don't need us suiting up and showing up trying to fight the fire. Social media posts don't put out wildfires or replant forests. They need money. Congress can provide the resources. Now, fortunately, last Congress, thanks to Democrats and President Biden, we passed two laws, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and there were Republicans who supported that, and the Inflation Reduction Act. Each law invests $5 billion into federal wildland fire management. This is because, just like I said, people love parks, and we want them to be open. Mr. Sams, how is the money that you said you need and that Congress has allocated, how are you using that to restore national parks that have been harmed by wildfires?
Thank you, Congresswoman. We've been allocated $105 million from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law for fuels reduction and post-fire restoration and rehabilitation activities that will mitigate the damaging effects of the wildfires and set landscapes on a path towards natural recovery and climate resilience. This includes planting of native and non-native species to restore or establish healthy, stable ecosystems and reestablishing burned habitat and reestablishing native trees lost in the fire.
So you're putting these dollars to great use. You've led a major effort to restore, for example, historic sequoia trees in the Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park in California that burned in 2020 and 2021. I've been there myself, unable repeatedly to visit Kings Canyon because it is still being affected by fire and storms. How exactly does investing in these efforts promote wildfire resilience? So you've talked about kind of repairing and restoring, but how about making things more resilient?
The funding helps us really look at how we're moving forward in the face of climate change. What are the species of plants that were out there? In my own experience in working with tribes and understanding indigenous knowledge and how we've used that, we as American Indians have seen climate change over the last 30,000 years happen at least 3, if not 4 times. And we have enough knowledge and understanding of what we can do to help build a more resilient future.
So can you continue to do this work without the $105.3 million? Can you do this just by waving a wand? Is there a way to do this without spending money?
Absolutely not. We need the funding in order to be able to combat this issue.
When we cut funding, we are hurting parents who have saved all year to take their kids or grandkids camping, we are devastating our recreation economies, and we're putting lives at risk. Fully funding the National Park Service and BLM, protecting those investments from the bipartisan infrastructure law, it is critical to the survival of our parks. I yield back.